Kia ora, good morning. I'm just documenting a dream I had. Um, I've been awake for just like a little bit. Not ages, but maybe like about an hour. I've just been, hang on, what time is it? Um, I've been sitting with this dream I had. Um, I don't know how to feel. And it might be because before I fell asleep last night, I fell asleep really early. I was I was asleep by about 8 o'clock. And then I woke up about 20 past 2 to go to the wharepaku. I know I woke up briefly to post something about Donald Trump and then promptly fell back asleep. And then I woke up about 22 minutes past 2 to go to the wharepaku. And I've been sitting with the dream ever since. But before I fell asleep, I was watching this thing on YouTube about the glass coffins of saints. All these different saints in various churches around the world, so it might have been what triggered my dream. But remember a few weeks ago I had that dream where I was received a summons to appear in Odin's court. And he told me that I could stand down, that they were going to take care of everything from here, and that I was just to focus on my writing and stuff. My dream started leaving the underworld where Odin was. Sorry. I was coming back out of the underworld, going back up the steps. The door was behind me to Odin's court, and I was walking up the steps to come back into the world, to enter Earth. But the steps didn't stop, the stairway just kept going. And I was thinking, oh my God, what the hell's going on? Like, I wasn't getting, I wasn't coming up into the earth realms. I just kept going up these stairs. It was like a never-ending staircase. And I was thinking, what the hell's going on? And then the more I climbed, the more I realised the lighter it was getting. And then the lighter it was getting, the brighter it was getting. And then I realised that I was above the earth, and then in the clouds, and then above the clouds. And I was getting higher and higher. And it was getting brighter and brighter, not like I was walking into the sun, like I was walking into heaven. Now you have to understand, even though I'm a reverend, I'm an Indigenous reverend, and I don't believe in religion. And I keep having these religious experiences, even though I'm kind of anti-religion. I think that faith is more important than religion, and they're two very different things, because faith is personal. Whereas religion is like an indoctrination. Religion is like not a cult. Well, I I don't believe that there's a single man on earth that should be telling you how to have a relationship with God. Put it that way. And I've proven that when you work on having a one-on-one with God, your faith is a lot stronger, you're a lot happier, and your connection with Him is deeper and more supernatural. I've proven that. I put a science to it. I put science to religion in a way that gets rid of all the bullshit. And then in the book of Revelation, God says Himself in the New World, He's doing away with all the temples and churches and that, because He's in the New World. People, their churches and temples will be their heart, and that they'll be able to take Him wherever they go, and that their relationship with God will be one-on-one and personal, just like how it is with me. So I was watching, this video about the glass coffins and that of these saints whose bodies were on display, and some of them were uncorrupted, and some of them had been waxed, and all of that, and it was really interesting, because these were people who were martyred and made saints after their death, and that because of their dedication to God. And so I'm wondering if that's why I had this dream. So as I'm climbing the staircase thinking, what the hell's going on, I was kind of checking myself, touching my body and checking myself, thinking, have I died in my sleep? I was perfectly aware of everything that was going on. And I was like checking my heart and my pulse, and I'm thinking, did I die? Did I die in my sleep? And I just kept walking up these stairs. It's like I couldn't stop walking up these stairs, and then I could hear like white noise, like from a spirit box. But it was like a radio station tuning in, and I was picking up bits on the news, and it was news stations in America and the BBC and all of that, and they were talking about me and what I'd done and what I'd been through. And, a woman from New Zealand, blah, 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 Donald Trump, Keir Starmer, the King, blah, blah, cult, blah, blah, Christopher Black, blah, blah, talking about, the more I'm starting to wake up, I need to talk quickly because I don't want to lose it. Arrested a group of people in America, and I think they said the Netherlands, and Great Britain, blah, 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 arrested, charged with conspiracy, with treason, with this, with that, with the other thing, and they were naming all these charges. Court hearings, found guilty, all of this sort of thing, and it was talking about what had been done to me, but what I'd done to fight back as well, to get justice. And it was like American news stations, and it was on the news like Australia, like ABC Australia, and New Zealand, and Britain, and America, and all these different news stations talking about arrests that had been made because of the conspiracy and and all of that, and they mentioned Vladimir Putin, and they mentioned the king, and they were talking about how this woman from New Zealand had uncovered like a nationwide this and blah blah blah, and arrests and charges and court hearings and people being found guilty and stuff, and like all of that sort of thing. And then my phone, I could, my phone alert, you've got an email, you've got mail. And it was various people on YouTube, like Coffee House Crime and that chapter, and I follow those two channels, but like other channels as well, that report on things happening, crimes, and you know the ones I'm talking about. And they were wanting to interview me. They were wanting to talk to me about what happened, to ask if they could turn it into shows, and they had questions and information in there. And it was like my phone kept going bling 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 bling, and I'm thinking, oh my God, no, go away, go away. Like I was freaking out a little bit, because I was like, I'm not good with attention. Like I'm not good with this sort of stuff. I had always been told that I would have people to deal with the press and that on my behalf, because once news spread about what I'd done, about who I was, blah blah blah, my email was going to light up, my phone was going to light up, and that I needed to prepare because it's going to get overwhelming. Not anxiety, but overwhelming. Because I'm not, I live a very quiet life. I serve God. I live in peace. I do what I do, and then I go back down into the underworld, and I continue writing and doing my horror stories. And I got a wee shop delivered yesterday from Asda. Last time it was Sainsbury's, this time it's Asda. Because sometimes one supermarket doesn't have what I need the most, so I go to the other one. And the guy said to me, how what did he say? How have you been? Are you up to anything good or something like that? How have you been? He goes, you up to anything good? And I said, nah. I said, I'm just writing. And he goes, oh, anything interesting? I said, I'm writing a horror, because, I'd just been working on Unorthodox. And he goes, oh, really? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm writing movies and video games and that as for projects for kids. I said, because I'm going to be opening a creative arts school for children in America. And he was like, oh, really? He goes, man, that sounds fascinating. And I said, yeah. I said, I'm specialising in horror and Halloween. I said, but, I do all sorts of things. I said, it's basically projects for the kids to work on. And he was saying, oh, when are you going to America? And I said, as soon as the legal stuff is taken care of. And he goes, so, like, are you looking to go in the next couple of weeks, months, years, like this year, next year? I said, well, as soon as I get the news that my legal stuff is dealt with, I said, I'm out. I said, so it could be any day. I said, I'm expecting news any day, sort of within the next few weeks, and then I'm out. And he goes, oh, that sounds so exciting. He said, I really wish you the best. He said, this sounds incredible. He said, what an incredible thing to do. He said, I'll have to keep an eye out for you. And I said, please do. I said, we're going to be called FIRE, the Foundation Arts and Entertainment Academy. I said, so listen out for us. I said, because as soon as we hit, you're going to know who we are. He was talking about the food that I'd bought to do the offerings for the birds and foxes and hedgehogs, and because I feed about 6 or 7 different kinds of birds, and occasionally you'll see squirrels, and I put food out. I just threw a big thing of gammon out for the gammon out for the fox the other night, and cooked, of course, and yeah, like I walked away from it thinking that's the second time that's happened, where someone's come to my door and been incredulous about what it is that I'm doing behind closed doors, and been really excited and looking forward to seeing what becomes of it in the future. Because it's like all these people are starting to circle my orbit in real life, not online or, via email and that, but in real life. And that's never happened before. That's how I know I made the right decision and where it is I'm choosing to go to. Because when I thought I was going to any other country in the world, I never had support. No one was coming out of the woodwork to lend support. But the second I zeroed in on New York, upstate New York, it's like people are like, yeah, come on, Debbie, you can do this. I'm just sitting here thinking now about the dream I had where I was on the tropical island eating coconut rice, and all the creatures in the sea let me walk on their back to help me get off the island. And the more I walked on the animals, the bigger the animals got. Oh my God. And they lifted me up into the clouds. And my sons were waiting at the top of the clouds. And I was nervous to step off the cloud. And my son said to me, you've come this far. Now we'll go the rest together. And I stepped into my foundation and there was a fountain there. And it looked like oldie worldy, and there were all these tourists and stuff like that. And I can't remember what else happened, but I have posted it. I can't remember what else happened. But I'm thinking that all the animals that were coming up out of the water and that to raise me up are all the people that are starting to come out of the woodwork to say what you're doing is incredible, and we support you 100%. And it's raising me up. And now I'm thinking about this bloody dream where I went from being summoned by Odin to say, okay, you've done everything we needed you to do. Now just concentrate on getting to where you're going. Coming out of the stairs, climbing up the stairs and going into the light. So it's my tropical island dream, I think. So, yeah, so I could hear the radio. My phone was going to say, hey, can we talk to you? We want to interview you. Can we tell your story? I want to write a piece about you on my blog. I want to write a piece about you on my page, this, that, and the other thing. And my heart was pounding because I was thinking, oh my God, like, do I have to? But I knew I had, like I was flattered. And I'm thinking, this is it, oh my God, sort of thing. But still feeling like I'm in this alone. And then the higher I got, the news reporters and all of that had been talking about my case and what I'd done suddenly drowned out, and I could hear music that I had composed for the Amber Rose, the Requiem, the Elven Council, who were the choir, the Elven Choir. And it was my composition. I was listening to my composition being sung by what sounded like a choir of angels, like Alvin angels. I'm thinking, oh my God, why is heaven's playing my tunes? And then just when it was about to get too bright for me to see, like the light was almost blinding, there she was. And she was wearing like a white robe thing with a red, blue and gold sort of sash thing around her that was covering her head. And she doesn't look anything like the images, but the picture, the thumbnail is the closest thing I could find. And she had her hands down, but they were, she was holding one hand over the other, like she was waiting for me. And when she saw me, her eyes lit up. She had the biggest cow eyes I've ever seen, like brown eyes, long lashes, the most beautiful, purest skin. The only other person I've seen with skin as beautiful in a dream is Joan of Arc. And she had the biggest smile on her face when she saw me. As soon as our eyes locked, she had this big smile, and she raised her arms to welcome me, and she goes, "Debbie, you did it." She said, "We're so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you." And she goes, "You don't realise what you've done yet, but you've done something that changes everything for everyone." And she said, "And you need to get ready, child." She said, "You need to prepare yourself because the whole world is about to know your name." And she said to me, "And I promise you, this time you're not going to do it alone." And she said, "We have picked the perfect spot for you." And she showed me land that had like a lake on it, that had like hills and like a field on one side and trees. Like it was like everything that I need to build my foundation. She said, "We've picked the perfect spot for you." She said, "It's not going to be hard to find. You're going to know it as soon as you see it." And I was looking down over it and I could see it. And it was everything I wanted. And she said to me, "All the people that are meant for you will be waiting for you when you get there. And he has been chosen. And you don't need to worry because they will come to you. You'll know who they are because they come to you." She said, because she was using like, she wasn't talking proper, like she was talking very like biblically, but I'm just trying to decipher it. She said, they recognise the important, they recognise what they're dealing with. They recognise what's been laid before them or something like that. They recognise what's been set before them, and they want to be a part of they want to join the pilgrimage. to where they'll find faith or something like that. Meaning all the people that are going to help me write my stories and video games and make my movies and that, they won't be hard to find because a lot of them are going to approach me to say, can I come and work with you because I want to be a part of what you're doing, because I recognise that what you're doing is bigger than us, and I'd like to be a part of the experience because I want to feel closer to God and my ancestors, like that sort of thing. The way she was talking, that's kind of what she was saying. And that people would be coming to my foundation as part of like a pilgrimage. Because when news spreads about what I've done, people will recognise that God is real, that it's all real. But they were looking at it the wrong way. And when they come to my foundation, I'm trying to put into words what she was saying. They'll feel closer to God. Whoever their God is, however they see God, because that's what atom is, you mould and shape your own creation, you mould and shape your own creator, and they'll be able to do it where I am. So people will come to the foundation to be around the kids and all of that because we're proof of what happens when you survive hell, like when you go through hell and you turn your experience into something positive, we're proof that God really is saving souls. It was something like that. We're proof of God's salvation. That when you step away from basically when you take a leap of faith, when you take a leap of faith and follow your heart, it leads you to salvation. Salvation being where you save yourself. When I stepped away from doctors and taking medication, my body healed. I healed myself by listening to my own body, and all my medical issues have just fallen away. When I walked away from relationships with men who were using me, who were abusive, who were neglectful, who were narcissistic, who were disrespectful, who were dishonourable, who were liars, thieves, adulterers, like, unfaithful, that sort of thing. When I recognised my worth in myself, it completely transformed the way I see men. And it's not that I was too trusting of men, but I always believe in everyone deserves the benefit of the doubt the first time. Don't, when men approach, don't automatically assume they're going to be like all the rest. I believe in that firmly. However, my taste in men has changed. And I won't be around anyone where I see signs where they are exhibiting signs of disrespect to other people, to humanity, because I always think to myself, if you're talking like that to somebody on the internet, or if you're talking like that about somebody who has an opinion of you, what would you say to the children? How would you speak to the children? I, when I look at people, I look at them like they're going for job interviews. I watch them and I think, is this somebody that I want to invite to be a part of what I'm doing? And there's been loads of times when I've said to someone, come and be a part of what I'm doing, and then I've seen things in them where I've thought, oh, no, actually, no, and then I've withdrawn the offer, like I back away, because I always think, if you're talking like that when you don't know I'm watching, how would you speak to the children when you don't think I'm watching? Um, and then if you're, because would you hide your true nature just to be a part of what I'm doing in that? Do you know what I mean? If that's how you're talking to people when you don't know I'm watching, will you fake it just to get a job, just to be, get a contract, just to be invited as a guest, just to be because I was thinking about this yesterday. There's a couple of judges that I watch, like Judge Judy Scheindlin and Judge, I think his name's Ralph Fleischer. Frank Capri would have been perfect, but unfortunately he's no longer with us. But what a wonderful man he was. But Judge Judy and Judge Fleischer, they're two judges who are perfect for their jobs. And I love how Judge Fleischer is always talking about, I have to think about my community. If I let you if I let you go in that, I have to think about the people in my community and keeping them safe. And him and I share the same kind of ethos. And I was thinking, when this is over and done with and I've got everything built, I would love to contact him to help me work with my Beyond Life program, and invite him out to the foundation to have like have a weekend, bring his wife, if he's got a wife, or husband, I don't know his situation, but and let him come and see the foundation, and then he can go to the comic book department and see what we're building in that, to show him, if there's any um, young people that he can maybe send my way that he thinks, is worthy of being given a chance to do right with themselves, and they might be have an interest in music or art or writing or whatever. I don't know how we would figure that out, but um, so I've kind of been putting bows on everything. I've got I'm finding it really hard to express what I'm wanting to say because I'm so overwhelmed by the dream. I'm starting to see where it's going, and I'm paying more attention to people I once wanted to be a part of what I'm doing. I'm now not interested because I've seen things that make me aware of the fact that I've got to be very careful who I invite. And just because somebody's on YouTube, just because somebody is, has a lot of followers, just because somebody's famous, just because somebody, has won movie awards, TV awards, music awards, um, sells out arenas, sells out movie theatres, that sort of thing, it doesn't mean that they're going to be a good fit. And I recognise that now. So I'm happy to do this alone and let the right people find me. I've pulled back a lot of offers because just because I like the person, just because I enjoy their movies, their albums, their whatever it is they do, doesn't mean they'd be a right fit for what I'm doing. So I've taken offers off the table, I've removed myself, taken them off the list as potentials to reach out and contact to say, hey, look, I'm this is what I'm building, would you be up for coming and spending a couple of weeks being a mentor for the children in the comic book department or the movie department, or, you're an actor, can you give the kids a talk about acting and giving them advice? You know what I mean? Because I know it's getting closer and closer and closer to me getting there, and all the things that all the people that I was keen to ask to be a part of it, not so much anymore. Because I've seen things on social media that has spooked me, and realising, no, take the offer off the table, don't entertain it. Because if they're like that in public, if they're like that on social media, when you see things and it's like, oh, I don't want that being brought to my school. I don't want that around the children, because you have to remember that a lot of these children are coming from abusive, neglected, psychologically traumatic homes and lives, and they're coming to us to heal them. And if they say something that is in disagreement with one of the teachers or celebrities, or one of the people I'm asking to come on board, are they going to then treat the children like that? Are they going to say that to the children? If you're putting your political views out there on your channel and you're pro-America, anti-Iran, how are you going to treat any kids that come from Iran to our school? If you're pro-Ukraine and anti-Russia, if you're if you're anti-illegal immigrant, bearing in mind that we're going to be rescuing kids who are dumped over the border, and you're saying stuff about anti-immigrants on your social media, and then we're building an entire safe house to put rescue kids in who have been dumped from the borders, how are you going to treat them? Do you know what I mean? If Russian kids turn up at my school and you're pro-Ukraine, are you going to have a problem with the Russian kids? Same goes. If you're anti-Ukrainian and Ukrainian kids turn up at the school, you're going to have a problem with the kids being from Ukraine? Do you know what I mean? So I've become very aware of who I can and can't have around me, because my foundation is going to be the corner of the world where it doesn't matter who your God is or if you even believe in God. It doesn't matter the colour of your skin. It doesn't matter your political opinions. None of this is about you. You're not going to be judged for the colour of your skin, your religion, your sexuality, your faith, your creed, your whatever. There is no judgment there. There will be no judgment other than for competitions that we have. And I'm looking for people who aren't biased. Because I want us to show children this is how real adults handle the real world. This is how it's supposed to be. How we are is how it's supposed to be all over the world. This is how it's supposed to be. What you're living in isn't normal. It's not a normal society. We're showing you what normality looks like, what a healthy, normal, happy, stable life looks like for everyone. So that the children will grow up knowing this is what I need to build for myself when it's my turn to build my own little corner of the world. And it's got nothing to do with, it's got nothing to do with having a difference of opinion, because of course everyone's going to have a difference of opinion, but it's agreeing to disagree. It is being diplomatic in your approach and not abusive and insulting. And in my dream, the Virgin Mary was saying, everything you've done, everything you've been through up to this point was to get you to now. And she said, and you're standing at the edge of the stairway, which I was like right at the top of the stairs and she was floating above it. And she said the next bit is where you step off and trust where you're about to land. And she said to me, it's hard to put into words what she was saying. I'm still overwhelmed by it. Basically, step off. Take that last foot off, knowing that there was no more stairs. There was just blue sky and light and clouds and take the leap of faith. And I stepped off and I started falling, but I wasn't afraid. And then it was like I grew wings. It's like I sort of like fell a few feet, but because I wasn't afraid, because I always trust your voice, it's like I was being carried by my own faith. And I just flew higher and higher and higher till I was like looking out over the world. And I could see the part of the world that was in nighttime, I could see the part of the world that was in daytime. And I was thinking, what now? And I saw the bit of land that she'd said had been chosen for me. And as soon as I saw it, it was just like the whole world just lit up. And night was like, where there was night, there was now day. It was like all, pew, and then it was just like I went, pew. like a missile, like a shooting star, like a bullet. As soon as my eyes locked on target, I was like, pew, straight in, boom, right there, pew. Like moving like lightning, like the speed of light, pew, right there, pew. And I landed, where I landed was my tropical island dream with my boys when we were standing at the top of the clouds. And my boy said, "You've come this far, we'll do the rest together, right?" Um, they were there waiting for me. And my son said, "Look what you've done." And it was, I could see my movie production company, I could see my games company, I could see my TV company. There wasn't a fountain, but there was a lake. And there were all these people, and they were coming up and shaking my hand, people asking for my autograph, people wanting to take photos with me. And my eldest son said to me, "Get ready, Mum, get ready, Ma." He said, "Because this is the next bit." And then at the top of the hill, at the back of the land, the Virgin Mary was standing at the top of it. She was huge. And then she just turned into light and vanished. I wish I could say word for word everything she said, because she spoke so eloquently biblical. So I have inevitably butchered everything she said, but I'm just trying to remember it as best as I could. So I guess I'm being told to get ready because my life is about to change. Whatever it is I've done something. And it's, well, she said, going to change everything for everybody. So is Donald Trump about to be held accountable? Is Chris Starmer, are they all about to be held accountable? Because it was talking about court cases, it was talking about charges. And I had that dream years ago where I climbed the Mayan temple and stood on the hand of God with the Scorpio tattoo, and I saw Martin, my husband Martin, and Ria and Nikki and all that being arrested and rounded up by the FBI and having their mugshots and stuff. So with bags of laptops and phones, and so I don't know. I'm overwhelmed by it all, because you don't expect to have dreams like that. So I'm wondering whether the YouTube video I was watching about the saints in glass cases was to prepare me for what was coming in my dream. But to have the dream go from where you're in the underworld with Odin to in the sky with the Virgin Mary, where Odin's saying it's okay, you can stand down now. We've got it from here to the Virgin Mary saying, you don't know what you've done yet, but you're about to find out, and get ready, because when everyone starts reaching out, it's going to be quite overwhelming. And then I won't be by myself by the time I get to the end. I'm in it by myself now, but not for much longer. Like, the people will come, the support will come, and it will be overwhelmingly abundant. So I think it's bigger than me just getting justice for what happened to me. I've exposed something, I've uncovered something, I've whistleblown, I've done something that's going to change a lot of people's lives, not just my own. Like, Starmer gets arrested, Burnham gets arrested, Labour get investigated, Parliament gets dissolved, everyone gets a new election or something like that, or Trump finally gets arrested, or Musk, whatever. It's something like that, I think. I'm assuming, I don't know. She said, I don't know what I've done yet, so I can't assume to know what I've done. But it's enough that Americans are going to let me go there. Like my teacher said, welcome me with open arms to the land of ease. And I'm excited. I think, I was thinking about this yesterday when I was putting all the finishing touches on my plans and ideas, which is probably another sign that I'm getting ready to be catapulted into my new life. But America is the best country for what I'm building. It was where I was intending to go when I first started building it. But now that what I've built has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, America really is probably the only country in the world that is suited for what I'm building. I can work around the fact that I won't be dealing with, ancient historical places like Edinburgh to make my werewolf movie. I'll do it in Louisiana or Tennessee or, I can work around that. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about the presidents and their birthplaces and their houses and their cemeteries and, the Civil War and all of that. I've been watching a lot of that stuff. I'm fascinated with it. And it just feels like I'm finally going home. From my indigenous days, like my blood type, O positive. The highest concentration of people with O positive blood are Native Americans. And I don't know where my ancestors came from in Native America. But I'm wondering whether I'm about to find out. The Crow Nation have a special place in my heart, but I don't think I'm Crow. I think maybe I could have been, that my ancestors could have been like Lakota or Algonquin, Chippewa, I don't know, but I think that this is a unfinished business regarding the old reincarnation of myself in regards to lost love from when I was First Nations, one of my First Nations ancestors, before we became Hawaiian, before we became Polynesian, going back to find my head of the eagle. Like he's waiting for me and he doesn't even know it. Or maybe he does, I don't know. I just know that I was deeply in love with him and I was pregnant and I got shot with an arrow in the shoulder and it tore a bit of my heart. And I fell and died up against a tree, and they had to cut the baby out of me to save the baby, and I died. And then, you know, he raised our daughter on his own, because then I died. But that he never got over the loss, and I've been trying to find him for lifetimes ever since. I've been trying to find him ever since I was 4 or 5 and having the dreams about the grandmother tree. Because that's when I was having dreams about Head of the Eagle as well, where we'd be sitting in the field and he'd be riding his horse and he'd pull me up on his horse, and or we'd just sit in the field and talk for hours with the eagle that was bigger than the sky flying overhead. I can remember almost every dream I had about him. Even when I was like 14, 15, 16. So I've been trying to find him ever since. He was the love of my life that I never got to spend my life with. And in this lifetime, I was promised that I would find him once I did the work, once I did what I had to do. The life I get as a result will be my reward. I just didn't know that the life I was going to get was going to be where I got to build a creative arts school in a beautiful part of upstate New York, surrounded by forest and nature and hills and beautiful. I now can't get the image of what she showed me out of my head. It's like it's ingrained in me, because she said I'll know it when I see it, which means me not getting it out of my head is to ingrain it into me so that when I see it I'll know it. And it's been chosen for me, she said. And it was perfect. I said to my sister a couple of weeks ago, the only thing that makes me nervous about, and my sons as well, about a lot of the properties I've been looking at is I don't want to have to chop any trees down. I don't want to buy anywhere where I would have to chop trees down in order to make space. That would break my heart. And what she showed me, that wasn't even a problem. I need a lot of land. I really wanted somewhere that had a body of water and a forest. And it, like she showed it to me, it was all there. I don't even know if I'm awake. I know I'm awake. It's just I'm dazed. I'm shocked from the dream. So I'll just see what happens. But I need to brace myself. Because something's coming. Or someone. And everything's going to change, like, overnight. So, whoever he is, it's all they're waiting, basically. They're going to come to me. I won't need to go to them. And that's even what Joan of Arc said in that dream I had about Joan of Arc. Am I disappointed that the man I chose has been reselected and they've chosen someone else? And I said no. And she said, because my buffalo's been chosen for me. They chose my buffalo. And am I disappointed that the one I chose to be my buffalo isn't going to be my buffalo? The Great Spirit. Anyway, so I'm going to go. I need to sit with this because it was a bit overwhelming. I'll try and find the video I was watching before I went to sleep, and I'll speak to you later. Get ready, Debbie Lee.